Welcome back to Golf 215. I am Anthony. Cross from me, Joe Meenan. What's up, bud?
Not much, my friend. How are you?
I'm okay. It's taken a couple weeks here, but
Yeah, we sat on this
I'm
one for a
okay.
while.
We did. I think we just needed to unpack our thoughts, um, collect ourselves. There was a couple different days, a lot of emotions that flew around. But I feel like we're ready. I
Yeah,
feel like
we
we're
gotta
ready.
we gotta touch on it, tie it up. Um, and I think what we'll do is, we jumped in at the end of each day and kind of gave our thoughts on those days throughout the tournament. Um, so I think we're really just gonna kind of touch on Sunday and kind of maybe some overall theme thoughts, and then forward looking, like what are our expectations going forward. But yeah, we won't rehash all the stuff that we've already covered. So if you're looking for that, check back. We have some snippets, out there that you can go see, our thoughts, for Friday and Saturday. But this will be mainly focused on Sunday, and then forward looking.
So, Joe, kick us off, man. Talk to me about Sunday. Start us off.
We said at the beginning that we felt like we needed to have that early, not even cushion, right? But like just get some points on the board early, which we definitely failed to do. Um, Pretty much all but counting, our chances out, coming into Sunday. Anything short of a miracle wasn't going to be enough. And then, in typical, U.S. fashion, made it look like we had a shot for a while. So it definitely made for a much more interesting Sunday, I think, than I think any of us were expecting. So, I mean, what were your thoughts?
Here's the thought that I had, like looking back at it, right? There was this conversation about the game plan and how we're sticking to it by the captain. And it really, I guess it really bothered me.
It did.
What was
It
this?
rubbed you the wrong way
What
early.
what was this game plan that we're sticking? What was so magical about rolling the same pairings out there that just got destroyed the day before, right?
Yeah.
And I guess if I'm looking at this, I have no idea. I have no inside knowledge here, right? I feel like the game plan was we're probably we can hang in there. If we can hang in there the first 2 days, we can take them in singles. That's what it feels like, or that's what it felt like. And if that was the game plan, it's just not the right game plan. Or I feel like you could have set the pairings up on Friday and Saturday better to give yourself a better chance at those matches so you didn't have to put so much work in on Sunday.
Yeah.
And then to kind of like to speak to that and to what you and Mike were saying, it just goes into the fact that US golf is not team golf.
Yeah.
We waited until Sunday singles.
I was gonna save this thought to the end, but it kind of fits right here.
But you ruined it, Anthony, and you brought
Yeah,
it
you ruined
up.
it. No, so right, I think he was still on the course when they asked him this question, right? But somebody puts a microphone in Shane Lowry's face and says, "How does this compare to everything else you've accomplished in your career? How does this compare to the Open?" And he goes, "Nothing can compare to this." And like that mindset of nothing can compare to this, and like this is the ultimate, like this is what I work towards. This is the event that I think about constantly. I don't think there's a single person in the U.S. that would answer that way. Not honestly, at least. Like if you were to ask them honestly, if they could trade, would you want rather win a major or be on a winning Ryder Cup team? I think most of them are going to answer that they want to win a major on the U.S. if they're being honest. And I think to a man on the European squad, they're all more interested in winning a Ryder Cup. I
Good
think that's
point.
pretty telling to the type of thought process for either side here.
I think all the videos kind of lend to that too, and listening to all of them speak. And I saw this this Rory one that was filmed before the Ryder Cup, and he's reading off of this card, and on this card it has three quotes on it, right? And for anyone familiar with this video, it's a video of Rory. I want to say like after his first Ryder Cup or going into his first Ryder Cup, and he's naive at the time, and he's just talking about how much this is just an exhibition. I think is the quote. This is just an exhibition, and he'll do his part and stuff like that. He kind of like there's these three major quotes, right? And he reads the quotes and he starts laughing after he goes, "Oh, I wonder who said this," right? And then he goes, "How wrong I was to think any of these." He goes, "The Ryder Cup is the complete opposite of everything that I said." And just how passionate someone that went into the Ryder Cup thinking, it's just an exhibition, to playing on how many Ryder Cup teams now and being like, this is what he plays 2 years for, right? Like a golf season is not just one season. It's like a golf season is 2 seasons and it ends on the Ryder Cup. And that's what
Yeah.
he gets prepared for. And to think that he won the Masters this year, but when asked afterwards, the Ryder Cup just meant more to him than winning the Masters. I think that kind of sums it up.
Yeah. And until the U.S. shares that thought process, it's going to be an uphill battle. It's not to say that they can't win, but it's going to be a much more difficult challenge for them to win while they have that kind of differing viewpoint on the importance of this event.
So let's do this, right? We'll throw out some main topics here, and we don't have to harp on them, right? Most of them we talked about. You can check out our other videos, but now that we kind of have the entire thing unfolded, we'll just hit on them, maybe like one point each or something like that, and roll through, right? Now we are talking about Sunday singles right now and how the U.S. is more individual than team, but I do want to shout some people out because there were some really good pairings on the U.S. side, right? I'm not saying everybody, but there were definitely a few good pairings after that played well, fed off of each other, and you saw that momentum happening, right? Um, to me, on the first day, now this one's going to be a little more outward spoken, is DeChambeau and Thomas. All right, I think a little bit more inward. The Schauffele Cantlay pairing I thought was really good on the first day. They fed off each other. First off, they're not two people that are always outwardly spoken, but from a pairing standpoint, I thought that they fed off each other really well. I thought that the Young and Thomas and the Birds and Cantlay groups were really good together. But I guess, and I could keep going here. I'm not. But I think the point being, again, Europe has more team team feel across the entire board. But look, there are definitely some U.S. pairings out there that played really well together, and that I think that get it. We just need more of that.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Completely agree. And I think it goes back to what we were saying from before the event even started. We need that longevity and that kind of sustainability and that recurrence, to build that, right? So listen, at the beginning, like at any given time, like if you were to look at the list, like clean slate, right? Starting over, new year. If you were to look in the beginning of the year, you can probably pick five or six guys that are definitely going to be on the Ryder Cup team, right? Whether they automatically qualify by being in the top six or they're going to be a captain's pick, right? Beyond that, it probably gets a little murky, depending on how everyone's executing and playing for the season. But you should take those five or six guys, right? And maybe throw in a few, alternates and make it clear to them like, hey, this is not an indicator that you're definitely being picked, but we're going to throw you in the mix with these guys. And we want you guys to, try to do these different like exercises throughout the season where you get out and you play, best ball with each other. You play some some alt shot. You play, whatever. Just getting them out there and like testing the waters with each other. Getting into a situation where they can talk through, hey, what would you do here? How do you want me to approach this? Because it's probably a lot more difficult to do that live when you're in competition, right? Get out and play together. Like, whatever, what's the next course? Go to Ireland, right? Get on that course, start playing around, do some alt shot there, and like, mess around and like, kind of get a feel for each other. Like, what would you do here? Where are you more comfortable? Where am I more comfortable? Um, and name a captain now. Like, name a captain now, get the captain solidified, and get the captain out there too to help, you know, push put these things in motion.
Joe, you're leading right into my question. I have a question for you. Does this start now? You have 2 years.
If they
Does
want to
this
win,
idea of getting players together start now?
if they want to compete, yes.
I agree. I think it
And
starts
it's
now. And you
and
don't
it, and
need
it
you
needs to
can
start
have
now,
as
and it
many
needs
as
to
you
not
want. What's that?
stop. It needs to be a continuous
Throughout the two.
rolling
Yep.
thing. Yeah.
And it's a group. And you can add to the group, subtract from the group,
And if you don't want to be if
whatever.
you don't want to commit to it, totally fine. You're
Fine.
probably not going to be selected. But that's what we need. Like, we don't necessarily need the top ranked guys.
Right. You need people that
We need the
want.
guys that are going to be most dedicated to the format.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, we talked about the crowd a lot. The videos that have come out afterwards, they're they're disgusting. Uh, let me be more specific here. You want to like have a chant towards the other team. You want to clap when they miss. Okay, that's not where I'm at, right? It's the throwing of drinks. It's the getting a little bit too personal with family and yelling at the wives of the players on the course, and there's the line. Like, you've crossed the line at that point.
Yeah, agreed.
Be more focused on rooting your team on. Come up with a chant for your team. Again, you have a chant that's negative towards the other team? Fine, but keep it in fun. I mean,
We're about
we
80
heard that we
years
heard the Europe chants. They were fun.
we're about 80 years behind on the chant game. So I feel like that let's focus on getting the players to be a little bit better, because our chants we're not bridging that gap anytime soon. However, the appropriateness needs to be fixed immediately, right? All about getting in the guy's ear, getting in his head, trying to rattle him. There's a right way to do that and a wrong way to do that. And I think a lot of lines were crossed. I want to give a little bit of benefit of the doubt to say, hopefully it was just handfuls of bad actors that rose to prominence, right? Where it wasn't 80% of the crowd, it was 20% or 10% of the crowd. Still unacceptable. But the level of it was just rising to, it was so obvious, right? That it became the whole storyline. So it doesn't matter that the majority of the crowd was a good crowd, or I shouldn't say good crowd. They were a good crowd in terms of behavior. I think the whole crowd was weak in terms of, you know, riling up rallying the troops and rallying the U.S. team. But I'm hoping that the people that crossed the line were just a handful of bad actors, and it was not one handful; it was multiple handfuls, right? Like sporadically spread out around the course. But again, that's what you notice, right? When there's people doing stuff like that, that's what rises to the top. Unfortunately, as Philadelphia fans, we know that better than anybody. So
We sure do. 9 o'clock is coming soon. So,
ugh.
all right. If you had to, if you had to sum up how or why the U.S. lost, like in a phrase, in a sentence, in a couple of words, what? Sum it up for me. Why did we lose?
DLTL, too little, too late. That's all it is to it. So we talked about the why, right? Where we feel like the U.S. plays too much of an individual game, but you also need some of those points on the board early. We can't be trying to dig out of such a huge deficit, right? You look at this final score, 15-13. It's like, oh wow, it must have been a great. No, that score is not indicative of what happened in those 3 days. Now, Sunday was incredible. Sunday was a great showing, right? And it would have made for amazing an amazing Ryder Cup had Friday and Saturday been a little bit more balanced. Like they didn't even need to come out with a lead there, right? But just have it a little bit closer, to get a fighting chance. But yeah, too little, too late, and then I'll take that theme of too little, too late, and carry that into preparation, right? Like we just said, we can't prepare for this thing 2 weeks before the event starts. It needs to be something that's an ongoing thing. Like what's our approach? What kind of players are we targeting for the next one? Like, how are we going to have them work together? How are we going to, identify them as early as possible to put them in situations to play together and, get to know each other and get the feel, for the formats. So that would be my thought. How do
So
you sum it up?
I'll tell you what, man, you really nailed it. You really did a great job. I'm gonna bring my point up. It's probably gonna roll into the next topic fairly easily. Putting.
Yep.
And I'm gonna say it like this, and we can roll right to the next topic, right? We missed a ton of putts on Friday and Saturday.
On a very puttable course.
Right? So much so. We're not even talking about the envelope rule if we sink more putts on Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I would venture to say, it's safe to say, we roll into Sunday with 8 to 9 points if we're making putts.
Let's pause there.
And I went through, just so you know, like I'm not just pulling a number out. I went
Mm-hmm.
through. We definitely tie more matches and win more matches if we're making putts. That just so we know.
100% agree. And I want to pause there for a second, right? Because we've been very critical of the pairings, and I think rightfully so, right? But I'm not even saying phenomenal putting. With the putting that you should have been able to expect from these guys, even with those pairings, we could have a very different result. So maybe it's like a 1A, 1B thing, right? Pairings and putting are both
P and
top
P.
of the list.
Yep. I have one other topic I jotted down, and I'm going to sum it all up with, and I don't want to hang it on one person. I know this. I know the captain tried to take all the blame on himself. I thought JT did a really good job of pointing out if we're making putts Friday and Saturday, we're not even having this conversation right now. But poor decision making all around, right? Pairings, golf course setup, all around poor decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's a group of people making them, if that's one person, whatever it is needs to get fixed.
Yeah.
Because everything we heard, that course should have been dialed up more than it was. And maybe the answer is not fitting the course to the home team. Maybe the it should be dial the course up to defend against the away team. Keep the ball in play. Keep it in front of you. But dial it up to play against them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just
I
a
like it.
thought.
I have a controversial question.
Go ahead.
The way that we select teams, right, where it's a top six guys and then 6 captains picks. Should we, and can we even, right, by the way that the rules are set up, should we take it a step further and evaluate how individual players perform in a format like this? I'm going to be blunt and call call him out, Scotty Scheffler is by far the best golfer on the planet at the moment in an individual tournament format. His game does not lend well to this type of format. He's got a very boring game, right? Which in a 4-day, all every man for himself format is perfect. That's what you want. Tune out all the noise, play your best game, and let it stand for itself. And that's why he wins and performs, so consistently well. In a format like this, you kind of need to take the chances every once in a while. You're picking your spots, right? It's not every hole, but you're picking your spot and you're taking, and he doesn't do that. And I feel like that's one of the reasons that he's not as successful in this type of event. Do we need to take that into consideration and potentially bump someone who's a better golfer because they're not necessarily great in this type of event?
I'm sitting here and I like where you're going with this, right? I'm sitting here thinking, like, is it that you get rid of the guaranteed in, like the top six are not guaranteed anymore? But then I'm like, well, no, because you want them for Sunday, so I get that. But maybe you dial it back. Maybe it's not six. Maybe it's four. The top four get in.
Or maybe
then you can have the rest captain picks. Go ahead.
And here's something that's a lot of pressure on a captain, right? And I think we touched on the fact that Friday and Saturday felt a little bit participation trophy-ish, right? Where it's like, we got to make sure everyone gets to play enough and play the same amount. Maybe if you have a guy who's a phenomenal individual player, but not good in these things, maybe you're not doing anything on Friday and Saturday. Maybe you're sitting and waiting until Sunday and then, hey, we just need that 1 point from you on Sunday. It's all we need from you.
Yeah, that's why you're here.
And it sounds crazy to suggest that about the world number one. And it's not just him here, right? But sure, he is the example. He is the example that I'm using. It sounds crazy to put him on the bench until Sunday, but I mean, what's our record? So,
sure. So
food for thought.
Let's get into this here. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's in an uproar about it. I'm sure I'm going to come in being the contrarian here. But let's get into the envelope rule. Everyone's freaking out. Things have to change. That I can't believe that this could happen to us and we lost. First off, we didn't lose because of the envelope rule. We lost because of these other reasons, right?
This is why I love doing the podcast with you, though, because there's so many things that you and I see polar opposite, and I love that.
but anyway, this is.
But I agree. We didn't lose because of it.
Right. Everyone's screaming about this rule. Things have to change because of this, and they're going on and on and on. What are your thoughts? Give me your thoughts, and then I'll share.
We did not lose because of it, so I agree with you on that.
Sure. And that's not you. That was just things.
No. But we could have. Sure. And I do think I do hope that this was an eye-opening moment that, like, hey, this is a really dumb rule. Like, I'm fine with the envelope rule itself, right? Like, because you don't want to give a double advantage to a team, right? Somebody gets hurt. You don't want to give the other team an advantage to completely reshuffle the deck and be like, oh, well, we were going to do this. You want to have like some kind of semblance of order there, right? But the fact that you're splitting a half point on either side when that happens, I think that's the part that's crazy. That makes no sense to me. The examples that are given are tennis, right? Every tennis event happens all the time. Someone pulls a muscle, gets hurt, can't go. They have to withdraw. They lose. The other person advances. It should be a point for whoever is in the envelope, right? So in this case, English, right? It should have been Hovland withdraws, English gets a point. And I'm hoping that it's a rule that they reevaluate because it didn't come into play this year, but it almost did. It was very close. Like one or two more singles goes a little bit differently on same thing. A couple putts sink on Sunday. And that half a point might be the difference between who's walking home with the Ryder Cup.
So I
don't think that should ever be the case.
Sure. Let me ask this question. Which If this was a tighter match Friday and Saturday, maybe I'm thinking differently. But let me ask this question. Why does the uproar start when the envelope rule negatively affects us
So
and not when it first happened and the US used it against Europe and it was okay? But
so
now it's not.
in my opinion, I think it's because a lot of people weren't really familiar with it. You and I talked about it beforehand, and like you're a much bigger Ryder Cup diehard than I am, and I don't think you really knew much about it before this year too. Now we talked about it before the event started because we had seen an article about it, and we're like, that seems crazy. Like, how big of an ego hit must that be to find out that you were in the envelope, and it only happened twice before, right? So here we are talking about it, and then 2 days later it comes into play. But that's the piece that's crazy to me. So I think it was more of a how many people are aware that this is a thing, right? So agreed, it's a natural reaction to be in an uproar because you could see that either it did impact your team or almost impacted your team. So I think there's an element of that, right? So like if this had been continued to be a blowout and Europe won by 5 or 6 points, we may hear less about it. But I think it's a decision that really needs to be looked at. I'll take it a step further. I don't think there should be any retaining the cup, right? And I saw this take from someone else. You have a 14-14 tie, have a tiebreaker process. Whatever you can do, whether it's send your best guy out there to do, sudden death, hole versus hole, or maybe it's like penalty kicks in soccer, right? Where you have a list. I'm sending Scotty against Rory, right? They're still tie. Next up, I'm sending Bryson. He's going against Fleetwood, right? Like just have it set so you have your card, right? You submit your 5 guys in order, and they go down the list, and it's sudden death. So you play whatever hole that is specified. But like, dude, how cool would that be to watch? Like, how exciting would that be versus, oh, this team had the cup already and it's a tie, so we're just going to let them keep it. Get rid of it. Make it some kind of playoff format.
Okay. So the only thing I would say about the envelope thing is, you know what the problem is? I'm a big traditionalist, right? Just leave it alone. It's not
You
broke,
are.
but like it's not broke, right? We're screaming about it because we lost the half a point, right? But we used it 2 times against Europe, and nothing's been said about it.
I wouldn't want to see either team win that way though.
No, no,
Like
I
I
know that.
truly
I'm
don't.
just saying, but no one has screamed about it until now, and it was used against because it was
So
used against us in a sense.
let's look coming into Sunday, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is we're a couple weeks past, so I'm already forgetting. They only needed 2 points coming into
Two and
Sunday,
a half.
correct?
Two and a half.
2.5. So
And they got that half.
what's to stop them from saying, "Oh, you know what? Our team bus, had to stop suddenly, and 5 of our guys are all having back spasms because the bus had to stop so quickly. So these 5 guys are gonna have to sit out tomorrow. So we'll just split those, and there's the 2.5 points that they need without ever sending anyone out.
So I
Not to
think
say,
there's a rule against. I think there's a rule against that. Like I think it can only be one.
okay.
Which again is like why like I don't have a problem with it, right? And again, we've used it twice. The US has used it twice.
I don't
91 and
care who's
93.
I don't care who's used it, when they've used it.
No,
Like,
I know from your standpoint, I get that. But from just the consensus on the internet being so out of sorts about it,
yeah,
it's always like that though, right? Like
you
when it's get you us using the rule, it's going, God, I can't stand that a closer has Timmy Trumpet playing And
Yeah,
and now we have a closer with music coming out, and everyone loves it,
it's
right?
the greatest thing ever.
It's the greatest thing
Yeah,
ever. It's the same thing, right? Like we use the toy. I get it. If there needs to be a change, totally in for it. But let's not scream
yeah.
because it was used against us, right?
I agree, and you have a lot of homers out there that are doing exactly that.
Yes.
For a different perspective, though, I am honestly coming at it as just a fan of the game, a fan of competition, a fan of sports. I just think it's a shitty way to win or lose, and I think it's avoidable, right? We got a little glimpse that it almost happened this time around. Let's clean it up. Make a couple changes because and for me it's not a US versus Europe thing. That's a crap way to end this event. Which goes to the other thing that I said about having a tie and just, one team retains the cup. I think that's garbage too. It's a shit way to end a very exciting event that has millions of people tuning in, right? Make it more competitive. Make it more entertaining. That's what it is at the end of the day. It's entertainment.
Sure. I'm all for the discussion of coming up with something different for the rule. I'm all for that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the other side for the trophy thing though. 14. I've won the trophy. Why do I have to beat you? Or why do I have to get more points than you? I shouldn't have
So
to. Like
so
that's again,
so
that's just my but by the way, that's just my stance.
let me see if I can change that.
It's not gonna happen.
As an Eagles fan,
Yeah.
right? Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. We get the Super Bowl this year, and let's say for argument's sake, let's say it's the Chiefs again, right? We're playing the Chiefs again. The end of regulation, it's tied. Well, the Eagles won last year, and they're tied at the end of this one, so the Eagles get to keep the Super Bowl. Even as an Eagles fan, I'd be like, that's horseshit. No, you need to win the game.
All right, so my green blood, I'm on the same page as you right now. But but I think there's something to take in consideration. There's more than two teams in the NFL. There are only two teams in this event. So you are either trying to take the trophy back or hold on to it, right? There's no third team that can come into play
Yeah.
where the third team is going to come into the mix, so you can't really do the 14. I would totally understand a tie rule if there were three, four, five teams playing here. But
But
every time they play, two teams play. So
the other thing is there's a precedent for it though, right? In any normal golf event, when the event ends tied, there's a method to break that tie. Like there's a precedent that already exists in this sport, right? Which we're just ignoring for the sake of this one tournament. It just seems weird to me. Like I don't like it. Never liked the tie anywhere, right? I mean,
I guess technically
it's
there
a
are no
very
ties. There are
it's a
no
very
ties.
European thing. It's a very European thing to say, yeah, we can end in a tie.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
not it's not really a tie, right?
look at soccer. It is a tie.
Well, because we lost or we won.
No, it shouldn't. Like, you're showing me a scoreboard and I see 14 on both sides. No one's telling me that we lost.
All right. Let's let's address the elephant in the room though right now. There's someone missing from this podcast.
Yeah, he couldn't bring himself to talk about it.
He he is full of emotion right now. He tried. He tried to get on. He, I don't, he's in one of those stages of grief right now because of the Ryder Cup. We might not hear from him for a while. But he was nice enough to send us his thoughts. So we'll send it over to Mike and we'll get some of his thoughts.
Well, guys, that was rough. It's not the outcome any of us wanted. Unfortunately, it was the outcome that I think we all predicted. The starting on Friday, it just those pairings didn't have it. I don't know what Keegan was thinking. I heard that the European team had played 10 rounds or so at Bethpage together going into it, and maybe the US team played one 9-hole match, it sounded like, or one 9-hole round. And you could see it in the competitiveness on the Friday, Saturday matches when the team matches went out there. I think the hardest thing to swallow was the fact that nothing changed as we went into, the rest of the weekend. And you think about when a team shows up and, pairs aren't clicking, maybe it's time to make an adjustment, or, you have to think about maybe it's just not the right relationship. Maybe it's not the right pairing. Maybe their games aren't playing off each other well enough. And you just have to read the room at that moment and think, how are you going to get the most points? You can't walk into Sunday singles with having only won 4 matches and having to sweep. Now, we'll get to Sunday singles in a second, because I think that truly changed everyone's perspective of what that Ryder Cup actually was. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But, I just want to say, going back, like we had said it a few weeks ago, go out with a Bryson and Scotty combo and try to get the best out of the two of them. Try to lock that first early point up. You're coming off getting a pretty bad loss in France, and the team is 11 out of 12 of the same people. I mean, I don't know what you're thinking when you send out pairings that are a strong player with maybe one of the weaker ones on the team. So it was hard to stomach the first couple days, and I had mentioned last time I was on with you guys that I worry about the depths of team sports and what's happening in the U.S. right now. And when you look at golf, we aren't a team. We played in the warm-up round, we'll call it, out in California, where they all were out there, but playing individually. So where was the challenge of, playing alternate shot, playing best ball, playing off each other? Like, you've got to figure that game out. That's not something these guys do day in and day out. But that's something that's critical for this tournament. And, if you want to represent our country, you got to go out there and try it. You got to make sure you get those rounds in. So I hope as we go to the future, we start to change the mold a little bit. But I just think where we're at today, the team's not built to win these Ryder Cups right now. We don't have the Spieths, the Reeds, the Thomases the way they used to be, the Fowlers. You think about the team of the past. I mean, those guys were the most energy. They brought the most fire to these matches. And now you look at a kind of a dejected team when they're walking around and they're really not excited about what's happening out there. You saw a little fire on Sunday finally, but again, back to individual matches. So not ideal when you have 2/3 of the overall event being a team component. So, but I do have to say, I mean, you can't knock them down completely, considering they went out on Sunday and almost won the Ryder Cup. So truly impressive outcome to be able to come back and have as many matches fought. I was sitting there and I knew Morikawa wasn't going to pull anything magical off because of the way he's been playing and just the attitude he's been carrying. So it was unfortunate. I mean, I really thought Henley played a great final hole and hit an unbelievable bunker shot, but just left the putt slightly short in the heart and gave Shane the perfect read to take the Ryder Cup home. But I give him credit, and I think the true hero of this Ryder Cup, and one I hope is in here for a long time to come, is Cam Young. I mean, Cam Young came out and was firing, and if that guy had 1 or 2 more putts drop, I mean, his putts were right there the whole time, and he was throwing darts, and I knew that that's what he could do, and I was so excited to see him play, and so excited that Cam Young showed up the way he did and had the Ryder Cup that he did. And I really hope that we find, another 11 Cam Youngs to come out next time, because that's what this team needs. And, you see it again, like talking about Sunday, there was great play. Justin Thomas came back and played like the old Justin Thomas for a minute. And it was awesome to see just the ability of him to close out that match and that putt he hit on 18. And then you think about some of the other matches. I mean, we really did show up on Sunday, and I respect those guys. And, whatever Keegan did on end of day Saturday, rolling into Sunday matches to try to make sure that we had a chance, good for him. You can't give the coach, all of the challenges. You can't give the captain all of the bad eggs here. So you got to give Keegan a little credit on just what he was able to do. And I mean, Keegan was out there. Won't forget him running down the fairway with the American flag and just really driving the energy out there. So just respect for Keegan. Wish we had taken a little bit more of an analytical approach to just the overall course setup, taken a little bit more of an analytical approach to the pairings. I mean, we've got so many data points now. You add that in and you add that with some extra practice, and I think the outcome's very different. I think we take the Ryder Cup on our home soil, which is what we should have done. So it's, I think you can Monday morning quarterback this one all you want, but boys showed up on Sunday. Boys played well. I wish the fans had a little bit more respect for the European team. I was glad the fans brought the fire, but you don't need to bring the fire with disrespect. Bring the fire with the way we always have, and keep the family out of it, keep the wives out of it. Don't be degrading. Like, we didn't need any of that. That's a bad look for what we stand as. So I think the Ryder Cup overall was it was a blast to watch. I love Bethpage. I can't wait to get back up there and tee it up on Bethpage again. I wish that rough was real thick and really causing those guys problems. I mean, there's no ball that should ever spin back coming out of the rough at Bethpage. But that was the choice we made, setting up the course. And I think as we look ahead, where are we looking at? 2027 for the next Ryder Cup here. The U.S. team has to have a real kind of come to Jesus moment here. And they have to think about what is it that they're trying to accomplish and what are they playing for? I think that's the big thing. I mean, to have the questions around money being brought up and, respect that a lot of this is being donated, but the Ryder Cup is playing for your country. It's playing for pride. There's nothing more than that. So if we can't find guys that are out there playing for pride, then don't put them on the team. I think I'd rather have guys that come out and have really highly skilled players that could come out here and, take some of these guys down. I mean, look at some of these amateurs that you could potentially bring out. You look at Stu, who's won a million different things and plays against these guys competitively in different tournaments like the Masters and the U.S. Open. I mean, bring some amateurs out if you have to. Bring some Walker Cup guys out if you have to, because this is getting sad on what the U.S. team's being made up of. So I think we really have to evaluate where the top six come in and, who the next six are for this 2027 Ryder Cup. But again, I think if we can anchor back to first camaraderie, second the mission, and really make sure the mission is driven by we're going to win one for America, and that's it. And there's nothing more than that. And just that there's that pride that carries through on all of it, and that these guys come out of it with the same passion this European team has carried over the last few years, and going back as well. But you look at the last 4 years in this Ryder Cup team, where, like I said, 11 out of 12 are the same. I have never seen camaraderie like that out of a group of individuals, and it was all spoken to where they all were ready to quit the Ryder Cup if Rory continued to be heckled the way he was. That wouldn't have happened in most places, but that European team was so there for each other. And that's what I want to see out of a U.S. team going forward. And that's what I hope we can gain. And maybe we need to shake it up on who our captainship is. Maybe we need to bring someone in from a different sport. Maybe we need to think about ways to bring in, true talent recruiting, someone that motivates and energizes and can get these individual players to be a strong team format. I think that's what it takes to win this. So, if you could bring a Phil Mickelson in, if he didn't just burn every single bridge in the U.S. golf scene, but I would love Phil Mickelson to be there because I think Phil would bring absolute fire to this team. I think Phil has the energy, he has the passion. He really is driven for the U.S. and what he's trying to accomplish. So I think bringing a Phil into the Ryder Cup as a captain could be a wild card. That could be an interesting look. Would love Tiger to obviously be a captain. I don't know if he will accept that, but look at others too. I mean, I think about, could you put a Freddie Couples back out there? Are there certain people that just know the game of golf that are going to be able to pick the right team and the right formats and bring the right players together to achieve a common goal? That's it at the end of the day. So I look forward to 2027. It's going to be a great year again on the PGA Tour. Can't wait to watch these guys. Proud of everything that, they came back and did on Sunday. But, just want to see a little bit more in those team matches and hopeful that, in the future that we can really anchor in and prepare in a way that this is one of the most important events. You know, it's as important as a major. It's as important as anything these guys are playing for week in and week out, if not more important, because it truly is pride in its legacy. I mean, this is what goes down in history, as do the major wins, but this is a huge thing where you all come together and win for a common goal. So looking forward to 27 and looking forward to having a team that goes out there and actually brings home the cup again for the first time in a while, because it's time to bring it back, and we need it back on our soil in the future. So appreciate you guys always having me on. Sorry I wasn't able to get in live with you this week. A lot of business travel holding me back, but was great to provide some input, and look forward to catching up with you guys again soon.
Mike, we hear you, Mike. We hear you.
We hear you, and
we're sad that you couldn't be with us, and we totally understand why.
Yeah, it may be that Mike was distraught. It may be that we just had some scheduling conflicts. We'll never know. But
we'll never know.
Or we'll never tell. But we do appreciate the Mike helping to round it out with his thoughts, because he was here with us, for all the other analysis and pop-ins through the event. So
big shout out to Mike Callahan. Appreciate you coming on, working with us. If anybody's got some property out there, hit us up, hit Mike up. Right, hit us up, we'll get you in touch with Mike. Hit Mike up, the Crossing GC, or at the Crossing GC on Instagram. Looking for land.
Yes, sir. I mean, listen, there's a bunch of things that we could talk about. I don't know that we need to harp on any of the specific other details for Sunday.
Sure.
I mean, Bryson had a fantastic comeback, right? Really made for some theater. A lot of good matches, but for me, I think the biggest, the last thing to talk about is where do we go from here, right? What's next? What's the best thing to do? What are your early thoughts for the next captain? What are we doing differently? How are we doing it differently?
Yeah,
I'll throw it to you for your first
thoughts.
Same,
yeah. I mean, that's what I've got written down. Where do we go from here? I think there needs to be an overhaul of our U.S. team process. I like some of the things you brought up. Pick a captain earlier. Why do we have to wait for the year of?
Yeah.
Right? Pick a captain now. Pick a captain at the start of next year. Get a captain in place. I love the idea of, and we talked about this, you just brought this up. We talked about it on one of the other episodes leading up to the Ryder Cup. Why aren't we getting out together and playing as a team? Why aren't we going and golfing somewhere as a group, right? Grab 30 guys. Let's just go play.
And how about at the course that we know that this next event's going to be held?
Yeah. Shout out Adair Manor. Looks fantastic, by the way.
Granted, as we know, right, each course gets overhauled, before the start of the event. So there will be differences going there now versus what it'll look like, once the event comes around. But you're still going to get a good feel for, the course, the layout, what are the elements you're dealing with, right? Because it's a lot different to golf in Europe versus US in some places, right? You're gonna have different winds, you're gonna have different weather, you're gonna have different, factors. Matter of fact, I would be targeting what week is the Ryder Cup, right? We should be out playing that week in 2026.
Yeah.
Right.
Or at least within the month. Let's be within
the month. Yeah. To give you an idea of what it's.
I love this. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
You guys can hit us up. PGA can hit us up at Golf215 on Social Club on all social media platforms. We're here with the ideas. I mean,
yeah, we're willing to discuss. Coming on board as potential Ryder Cup advisors.
Yeah, absolutely. So, they don't call us consultants for no reason.
Oh man, we'll even throw in some President's Cup advisory skills.
As far as captain goes, right? I don't know if I have a person picked out, right? I know there's been some rumors flying around that there's one person that could rise to the challenge. And of course, someone turned around tomorrow and said, Tigers accepted the challenge. Man, I'm on board. I'm 100% on board with that. Okay. But I'm not looking at a person, a single person, right? I'm looking at bring in someone who's doing this stuff day in and day out. Look at other avenues. Why does it have to be a current golfer, right? A current PGA player? Because I think we saw that Keegan probably would have made this team if he was not the captain. And what could he have done if he was on this team? So why take yourself out of the running? Why not go look other avenues? Why can't this be a coach from a college golf team? Why can't this be what one of you guys brought up Michael Jordan? Why can't this be Michael Jordan? Why can't I know why it couldn't be Michael Jordan? I get it. But why couldn't this be somebody else who is just not part of the PGA? Why does it have to be someone who golfs?
It, my bigger thing is whatever it is, whether it's someone in this, a current player, a former player, a coach, someone outside of the realm of golf, right? Whatever we land on, I think one of our focal points needs to be retention, right? Don't make this a one and done. Give me a 2 to 3 year or 2 to 3 event, contract for somebody, right? Where they're going to get in there and they're going to make mistakes. They're going to make mistakes in the first one, right? Hopefully learn from them, apply those in the next one, right?
You know what? Maybe there's not, you know what, Joe? Sorry, cut you off here. Maybe it's not a person.
A team.
Maybe it's a group.
Yeah.
A team of people. And you get that team on board for 3 events. Start out with 3 events. You get 3. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. And listen, it's a coaching staff, right? So maybe you have it and like the first year they go out and they do it, and then you keep it status quo for the next time around. Or maybe you say, hey, listen, you know what? I'm going to use, basically I'm going to use football terms here, but like the head coach wasn't exactly what we thought he was going to be, but you know what? These coordinators really rose and we're going to elevate this coordinator to make him the head coach. Team still stays intact. All of the knowledge retention that we have is still there, but we're going to have one, this guy's going to be promoted to be calling the shots. Now, I don't think that's the plan that you go in with, right? But it's an option that you have, right? And you still keep all of that knowledge in-house and, you still roll with it. So yeah, I think you have to start with building a good team that has a good rapport and has a good rapport with the guys that are ultimately going to be representing the U.S. as players.
So do you have somebody in mind?
For the long term, no. I agree that I think Tiger's the obvious choice at some point. For the immediate, like, hey, let's build, I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Keegan come back. He did not put out an A+ performance. Arguably B- C+, right? But I do think he went in with the right mindset. He's a good guy in terms of rallying the troops, getting the locker room buy-in, right? The clubhouse buy-in. I think he does have that with these guys. They trust him and they support him in an effort to keep some kind of, carryover. I wouldn't mind seeing him out there again while we build this more sustainable, like, what is this team that we're going to build, for a year over year, or a, 3 event 6-year plan, right? 5-year, 6-year plan. So, and I could see him ultimately being like an assistant on that in that group.
Sure, I think it's a good idea. I'd like to see him not be on the PGA Tour at that time, though. Because in 2 years from now, maybe he can qualify. I'd like to see him take a run at playing
Yeah.
But I do think that there is.
Keegan's still pretty young, right? Like in the grand scheme of like a PGA career. Checking.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's 39.
He's so 41 by the next Ryder Cup would probably his close to one of his last playing Ryder Cups.
Yeah.
But I think he would bring a wealth of knowledge from this Ryder Cup to being a part of another group or another team, right? Whether he's an assistant captain or a captain.
And
I would
here's
agree with you there.
here's one of the things that I can say about Keegan, right? Because there's, and again, this is all perception. We don't know, but I feel like there's a lot of guys, and this is with anything in life, right? Not just golf related. There are people that fail at something or don't do the best job at something and refuse to admit their mistakes. And then there are people that are more introspective and are going to actually look at what went wrong and what could I have done better. And I really get the feeling from Keegan that he's the latter, right? So he's not going to be, even though he had the whole we made a plan, let's stick to it for this event. I don't think he's going to not make changes. I think he's going to actually look at what could we have done better, how do we change it, and how do we implement like those changes. So like that's why I think that even though he didn't perform at his peak, he could still be a good candidate for the next one.
Good stuff, my man.
So
Final
we'll see.
thoughts.
Get your shit together. Start now. Like it's this is not an insurmountable thing, right? It's only insurmountable if we make it insurmountable. And we make it insurmountable by not thinking about it until 6 weeks before the next one. That's how it becomes insurmountable.
I like it. I like it.
Our phones are open, PGA.
Here's what I'm going to end with. I'm putting everyone on notice. I'm putting everyone that played on notice. I'm putting everyone on the PGA Tour that wants to play on notice. I'm putting the captains, the assistant captains. I'm putting the analytical team. I'm putting everybody on notice. It starts now. You want to go win? You want to go win away? It starts now. You have to change the mindset of the way this team thinks and plays. And you know what? Away might be a good refresher. We're going to get away from our fans. We won't have to deal with any complaints about the fans. And I would love to put the fans on notice. If we had another home one coming up, they'd be on notice too. Get your shit together. So
Yes, sir.
Everyone's on notice. I want a W in 2 years.
And if you don't really care, turn down the invitation. Even if you're top 6.
Turn down the invitation. I love that.
If you're not ready to commit 100% to, you're worried about how it's going to impact, your individual season, your individual results, or you don't want to dedicate, the time that needs to be, just, that's fine. That's totally fine. Just turn down the invitation.
Mm-hmm. You're still cool with me, dog. Just, this isn't for you.
Yeah.